In this video, I'll be installing AccuSQL 2015, opening it up to a native tutoring sample database, and then I'll be creating a blank database in SQL Server. I've opened a folder here that contains my installer launcher. It's called AccuSQL.exe. You may have a key installer or just have the folder, but this is the program where you can launch AccuSQL Installer, Computer Lab plugin installer, or Web Gateway, along with some other products depending on what your package includes. But anyway, once you open AccuSQL.exe, you'll be given some various options. And just mouse over one of the products in order to see more about it. Now, if you've purchased the Computer Lab plugin, you'll see an installer for that in here. If not, you'll see more information on that. Same with Web Gateway and the iAccu Apple app. If you click on AccuSQL, you'll see all of the various products that are included in the AccuSQL installer, including AccuSQL itself, and then some other add-on products. There's information on each of these products if you click on those. But anyway, I'll go ahead and install AccuSQL 2015. That will open the installer for it. And I'll click Next, Next again, read the license agreement and accept it. Put in your user or organizational information if you'd like. I recommend keeping the default install path, so I'll click Next, and I'll install for anyone. And then it'll install the product. It may take a few moments. Okay, so now I'll click Finish, and then I can exit my installer launcher. And you'll notice I have a shortcut here on my desktop to AccuSQL. If I double-click on that, it will copy some files out that it needs to run, and then it'll point to a tutoring sample database running off of its own public folder. Okay, then I'll go ahead and log in the first time. The default is 9 ones, so 1 9 times. Press Enter, and the password is all caps NEW, new. Okay, press Enter, and it'll warn me that I'm still using the default ID and password, that I should change that, and I recommend you do so. But now I'm in AccuSQL, and you'll see at the bottom I am not connected to a SQL Server database. Okay, so my next step, if this is a new install, I'll be creating a blank database out in SQL Server. If I already have a previous version of AccuSQL, then I wouldn't need to transfer a blank database. What I would do is run a program called SQL Data Updater.exe in order to update the database to the new 2015 version. There's a video in the AccuSQL Installer launcher that describes that process. Okay, but for this demonstration, I'm going to pretend it's a brand new blank database. Okay, when I look at database location, you'll see it's running in native mode right now, which just means it's running with a local sample database. It's not connected to a SQL server. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is create a blank database in SQL Server. I'll click on that. Now, by the way, you'll want to test your connections here before you transfer the database. It will succeed or fail. If it fails, you'll need the native SQL connectors. So I'm going to open my file location where my AccuSQL is, and then go to my SQL drivers folder. Okay, and I have a 32-bit or a 64-bit version of the DB connector for SQL Server. So if you see the error you'll see when you test will be something to the effect of OLE iDispatch error cannot connect with native SQL Server driver, or I believe it's OLE connector. Anyway, you'll know if you see that error, just go run your native connector here, okay? But now I'll put in my SQL Server information. And I do need SA permission in order to do this, to create the database. And now I can name it what I'd like. And now I can test it. Okay, so my test succeeded. I'm good to go. Now at the same time, I can create a public account to connect to that database. Now I recommend you do so here because we do some grants and some other information behind the scenes. I have a script if you need to do it for an account that already exists. But now I'm going to go ahead and create my blank database. And it'll take a few moments to transfer the tables over into SQL Server. Okay, so once that completes, go ahead and close out, and then we're going to go to Database Location, and we're going to switch it to SQL Server mode. Okay, there's a few things I want to point out here. First, you'll see a read-only local folder. These are the files that are stored locally for this install. That's a read-only field, but just leave that one alone. Don't worry about it. It'll generate that on its own. The next thing here is shared folder. Now, there are various reasons you may want to create a shared folder, and what I mean by that is putting a folder out on a network or a server somewhere and pointing all of the various users to that shared folder. That has various purposes, one of which would be if you shared pictures, if you shared reports with one another. If there was an update to the software, it would go out and query that shared folder in order to copy the update files back to itself. If you use local labs in conjunction with intake system, you'd need to have a shared folder. Okay, but I'll leave that alone for now. Now I'm going to put in the same information that I just used when I transferred or created the blank database, and I'm going to connect to that blank database. And I'm going to use my SA just so I can get a list of all of my various databases. And that takes a moment or two to populate. But there's my ABC University, and I can go ahead and use my public credentials that I created. And test my connection again. Okay, so now I'll save. And it will tell me I need to completely exit AccuSQL, so I'll close out and then exit. And now it'll ask me if I want to back up my tutoring sample native database. No, thank you. Okay, so now I'll reopen AccuSQL. It will reconnect again. Now I'm in SQL Server mode, so I'm connecting to that SQL Server database, which is a blank database. At that point, then I would typically begin doing my imports, such as my student information, my course information, professors that teach my courses, registered classes. We have a lot of videos on importing data. But I'll log in now with my ones and my new again. And you can see I am connected to SQL Server. I can go verify that by going to Database, Database Location. And there I am in SQL Server mode with my ABC database. I go look, and I should have no information. It's a blank database ready to be built. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Thank you.